Hello, citizens of YouTube land.
Hey,
It's your president and your VP, and it's the main channel today because we've got something very special for you guys today. Today's review is Roadhouse. 1989 movie, so that makes this the 35th anniversary. It stars Patrick Swayze. It's got Sam Elliott. It's got Terry freaking Funk in it for you
and
wrestling
Keith
fans.
David.
And Keith David, also a iconic actor. Patrick Swayze, he plays Jake Dalton, right?
Oh wait, we should also mention that this movie, technically the setting for it is Jasper, Missouri, but it was filmed in California, and that is an actual criticism of it because you can see the California mountains in the background.
And since it's Jasper, Missouri, that means that it's right here in the Ozarks, which is not that far from where we're at here in Branson. So it's another film that's going to speak to our hearts personally.
Yeah, even later on, there's even one line in the movie where he's like, yeah, I could get in contact with some of my FBI buddies in Springfield.
Yeah. And so those of you who know, Springfield, of course, is basically the unofficial capital of the area. So that's why it's so significant. But to get right into this, Patrick Swayze, he plays Jake Dalton, right? Jake Dalton is this world-famous, renowned cooler. A cooler is basically a guy that comes in and he's like the head bouncer of a nightclub or a dancing club, something along those lines. Or even just a honky-tonk bar, which is where we're going to be here in the case of Jasper, Missouri. The rowdiest honky-tonk bar in all of Missouri.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it's the rowdiest. So, Jake Dalton, he comes from New York, and he's bouncing, and the owner of the Double Deuce in Joplin, Jasper, excuse me. Then Jasper, he comes to see Jake Dalton and says, hey, man, I got this honky-tonk. You need to come on down and help me get this thing organized and get it back under control. So Jake's like, okay, I'll come scope it out. So he shows up, and Terry Funk, he plays this character named Morgan. He's being all rowdy and whatnot, right? Just raising Cain, and even to the degree where he eventually like press slams this guy up over his head and tosses him down.
Isn't Terry Funk a famous professional wrestler?
He is.
I thought that's why he sounded familiar.
He is. Jake, he sees how rowdy this place is because there's booze, there's broads, there's something else. Because it's an R-rated movie.
Drugs?
Well, there's something else.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
It's an R-rated film, so
what adults do.
Parents, you can't really let your children see this movie.
Yeah.
You probably really should screen it ahead of time. Make your own decisions, of course, but you probably shouldn't. So anyways, Jake, he sees the scene. He's been there that whole night. He sees how rowdy it is. He says, okay, $5,000 up front, $500 a night. The owner's like, done. So he starts making changes, right? One of the things that he has to do, though, right away when he gets to town is he has to get him a new car, basically a beater car. Why, you ask? Well, you'll find out a little bit later, because it seems like he has to get a beater car in every town he shows up in.
Yeah.
Because, so, as it's progressing here, he's making changes to the bar. He's getting his own bouncers in there. He calls up his buddies, played by Sam Elliott. He's like, hey, man, you need to come on down here, too. But we'll get to that. So, there's this other guy named Bradley Wesley. And Bradley Wesley is the main bad guy of the film. He is the super greedy, rich, powerful business owner that controls everything in the town. You guys have all seen these types of movies. Heck, you probably know of some scenarios right now. There seems to be, not to get political or anything, but there's an instance of this right now with a corrupt mayor in Illinois that's been big national news.
Oh, I actually haven't heard of this.
Yeah, you should look into that a little bit.
Okay.
But moving on from that, because it was, like I said, a real life scenario, so it kind of leans into this. So, with that being said, Bradley, he's got these goons that work for him too, 4 or 5 henchmen, and they're going to make all kinds of trouble for Dalton. First and foremost, Dalton, he finds this farmer, right? And the farmer just happens to have this farm right across the river from the main bad guy's establishment.
Yeah.
And so after his first night, the second night he comes in and he starts cleaning it up, and he fires the bartender because the bartender is skimming. He goes outside. His beater car now has a hole in the windshield and 4 flat tires.
Oh, don't forget he also fired another dude for having some adult time with a
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah. See, he fired another one for being intimate with a woman on his break, which you can't do that no matter where you're at. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. So with that out of the way, though, he, of course, he had already went to a junkyard because he anticipates things. He's a man of action. He's a man of plans. He understands how things work, does Jake. So he'd already been to the junkyard to get the tires. He goes to the auto parts store and he's like, hey, order me a windshield. It turns out the auto parts store owner had raised up the main doctor of the whole town. Jake's going to get in a relationship with the doctor.
Yeah. After, of course, he
has intimate time with
stabbed.
him. And he has intimate time with her.
Yeah.
But he's not on his break. It's at his house.
Of course.
So
that's okay. As long as you do it at your own house, that's okay. Not at your work. Don't do it at work.
Right. Right. So, as it turns out, the auto parts store had raised the doctor up, and the whole town is afraid of Bradley Wesley. And they all kind of pay a legal extortion, more or less, because he formed this, like, Jasper County Improvement Project or something of that nature. I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it's just legal extortion is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a way that a lot of corporations and a lot of people have stolen from people over the years. So in a way, it makes so much sense. And I know that people just look at this movie as like a mindless action film. It's not, though. At its core, it's about one man's stand against corruption.
Yeah. So basically, Dalton, he's doing his thing, right? He's making the bar better. In fact, they don't really have to. The band doesn't need to be playing behind a screen anymore.
Yeah, that was one thing. The Double Deuce had this chain link fence in front of the house band so that the people couldn't attack the house band.
Yeah.
And
basically, speeding stuff along, Dalton's farmer friend, his house gets Molotov cocktailed.
Yeah.
And it turns out he found the dude that did it, and he jumps from out of nowhere, tackles the dude off of his bike, and they get into a fight for the death, mind you. This is a knockdown, drag out type of fight. And then the dude decides to cheat, and he says, I'm going to kill you the old-fashioned way.
With a Mortal Kombat fatality.
Yeah, Dalton, he gets his fingers like this, and he just, this is his hand, and this is the guy's throat. He's like, oh!
Fatality. And also, Brad Wesley, he had his goons burn down the auto parts store because Red, he wouldn't pay the commission fee anymore. And they're like, oh, stay, Red. We'll help you rebuild. You got insurance,
can you prove
right?
that he did that? He's like, no. He's like, I can. And he's like, I got some buddies at the FBI station in Springfield.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, it's a true.
So Red appears to skedaddle on out, but he doesn't. That comes up a little bit later.
Yeah. So Dalton's friend Sam, I forgot his name in the movie, honestly. So we're just gonna be like Sam Elliott. Yeah. He comes to town and he helps, but he starts to get a little too, and so Dalton starts to get a little too sticky with Brad, and basically his friend winds up getting in the chest with a knife.
Mm-hmm. And that's what had led to him seeking revenge, and he ends up with the fatality. And so this all leads down to a big showdown with the main bad guy and his henchmen. And Dalton uses the exact same knife to
kill the exact same guy. Make the exact same guy sleep with the fishes, and then he turns him around and he gets another guy, and then the nephew, the bartender that he fired earlier, shoots bang bangs one of the guys in the back. So Dalton, he comes around and chucks the knife like a throwing knife, and his stabbies the other guy in the chest, and he sleeps with the fishes as well.
The big obese henchman, he's lurking around with his shotgun, and he's looking.
No, it's a pistol. It's like
he's looking for Jake. He's looking for Jake with this polar bear that Jake's basically behind, starts moving toward the obese man, and he's like,
he fires a few shots at it, but then he gets knocked out. And so, but then Bradley comes around, and then once again, the climax of the film here is this fight between the main bad guy and Dalton. So it's another knockdown, drag-out fight.
And you think it's going to end with the same fatality,
yeah,
right?
because he's getting ready for it. He's like, but then he shows him mercy.
Because the doctor shows up.
And then the guy, and then the main bad guy, like a coward, grabs his gun. He's like, I'm going to get you, boy. But then you see that a bang bang happens to him in the chest.
And then another.
And then another.
And then another.
And then another.
And then the bar owner, he comes in with a double barrel bang bang and finishes him off.
And he goes out just like how every 80s action movie bad guy goes out, with a dramatic fall through a table.
Yeah, or it would be a dramatic fall from a skyscraper, like in Die Hard, or but it had to have the big dramatic finale, guys. And what can we say? Because as we said, at its heart, yeah, there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of adult skin showing. We'll say that. There's a lot of intimate time. There's a lot of all of that, but the fact remains that it's really about Jake's stand against this corrupt individual.
And it's also kind of like learning from the mistakes of his past.
Yeah, because he had apparently made somebody sleep with the fishes via that fatality down in Memphis, and he was holding on to that. And guys, this is kind of a real thing too, because that can eat on somebody when a bouncer has to kill somebody in self-defense, because I'm reminded of the Scott Hall story. Again, I know it's a wrestling thing, but it ties into this. Scott Hall was originally a bouncer in Miami before he got into wrestling, and he had to make somebody sleep with the fishes in self-defense, and he never quite recovered from it. So that thing does tend to stay with you. So he has to deal with those issues, and he deals with the corruption, and in the end, he gets the girl. So, I mean, it's an 80s classic, most watched movie on cable television.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who are wondering, currently it has a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's just not accurate, guys. It is a really great film.
If anything, it should really have like an 80%. It's a B. It's like a B minus movie.
It's like a B minus movie. He's right. So, final rating for this one, 4 out of 5. What say you?
Also a 4 out of 5.
I don't know. You want to go with a joke with this one?
If you have seen Roadhouse and you think it is the worst, and you think it's the worst action film of all time, then clearly you've never seen... I'm trying to think of one here. I'm going to go...
Eats versus Saber.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah, that works.
It's a weird sci-fi movie that hardly anybody's seen it, and it's not very good.
Okay.
So, with that being said, guys, that was Roadhouse, but stay tuned, because coming up, we've got the remake for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we've got a special video comparing both.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. And until then, there's only one thing left to say. And that, of course, is...
Peace and love from Denny and Son. Bye.